Okay. Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. In the last class, last lecture, we had talked about a scheduling algorithm. The last scheduling algorithm, what we have seen was round robin scheduling algorithm. So again, round robin means going back. Means here in this round robin, we fix the time. The time, it depends upon what time we want to fix. Based on that, we'll be saying uh, what is the time required for completion of each process. So you can fix. So it is left to the thing where based on the time, uh, the time can be from 10 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds. We can fix the CPU scheduling time anything based on our process. Based on that, we fix the time and we keep doing our work. And we have seen two examples. One was again in the same round robin, we have two things. One is primitive and non-primitive. Non-primitive means what? Um, Non-primitive is coming out. mm, Non-primitive means coming until unless my work is done, I'll not leave the CPU. That's what is called as a non-primitive. Primitive means once my time is over, I have to come out. Something like that is a same what we are seeing in a round robin. And we have seen these three. One example where we have P1, P2, P3, and we have seen 24, 3 as our burst time. And we have just calculated waiting time, average waiting time, turnaround time, and a throughput. Similar fashion, we have to consider one more algorithm where the time quantum is being increased. So in the first example, it was only 4 milliseconds. Now we have changed or increased the time time quantum by 20 milliseconds. The burst time is given as 53, 17, 68, and 24. And we've seen how this is being done. So we have calculated waiting time for all and average waiting time, through turnaround time, and the throughput. So now we start with one more thing called as a multi-level uh, queue scheduling. So multi-level means what? Many. So in the earlier cases, what the problem in the CPU scheduling was because they were using only one ready queue, only one, and it was and for that ready queue they have to implement any of the algorithm. Either it may be first come first serve, shortest job, or priority queue, or a round robin. So, and it was very difficult to execute or execute the programs or projects was bit late. Means it was time consuming. So to avoid that, we have one more thing called as a multi-level queue scheduling. Multi-level means what? There will be so many levels. So some levels for foreground means front end. What right now what you people are saying is front end, back end. Same way here, even in the operating system, we have something called as a foreground and a background. Foreground means where it is something like interactive, the your web pages. Background is similar like your database, where you keep all your data behind, and it is not visible to us. So that's what foreground and background. Sometimes the process can be easily classified into different groups like foreground and a background. Foreground we call it as an interactive process, and background we call it as a batch process. These two types have a different responses, time requirements, and different scheduling needs. And foreground process may have a high priority over a background process. So what we see here, at least in these sentences, the time requirement and different scheduling needs. So foreground may be considered as a high priority compared to the background. Multi-queue scheduling algorithm partition the ready queue into several separate queues. We'll see in the diagram in the next slide how this is being divided. Multi-level queue scheduling is what it says, foreground and background. There are two separate things, foreground and background. And here, a multi-level queue scheduling algorithm partition the ready queue into several separate queues as shown in figure 2.19. Each queue has its own scheduling algorithm. Normally, foreground will be having a round robin, and whereas a background will be having a first come first serve algorithm. What generally it says is we have to multi-level queue. Foreground is separate queue, and background we may consider something like that. But again, it depends what type of how many queues you want. It's left to you, the operating system, so that it should complete the work faster. Same way here, foreground will be given a high priority than a background. In the same way, how separate algorithms are there. Now we have just seen four algorithms. Maybe for foreground, we may consider a round robin, and for background, we may consider a first come first serve algorithm. The same way you can see here, this highest priority is given for a foreground, that is paint application part, and lowest priority will be given for a background. So the same way you can see that how many different queues are there. We may have one queue for a system process, one maybe for interactive process, one maybe for interactive editing process, and for background, uh, we may take a batch process and a student process. Like this, we may use a different multi-level queues. We see what it is. So in a multi-level feedback queue scheduling, in multi-level queue scheduling algorithm, process are permanently assigned to a queue as soon as they enter the process. What it means? Permanently the process. So now I may have five queues. So I will say that if the process one enters, I'll see whether it is requiring which one, whether foreground or a background. Based on that, I'll see that okay, it should be fixed for M1. Let us consider M1, M2, M3, M4 or four queues. I'll see that P1 has entered. I'll see that P1 whether it requires foreground or background. Based on that, I'll assign that for a M1. So like this, each process, whichever enters, will be given a separate queues. They do not move between the queues. So earlier we were seeing that round robin means if time slot was given, after its time slot, it has to come back and again go back to the end. That problem is not there here in the multi-level queue. This flexibility is solved using multi-level feedback queue scheduling algorithm, where each process can move to any other queue. The idea to separate process with different CPU burst characteristic is a process uses too much CPU time, it will be moved to a lower priority. Let us take one more thing. What they give in that is, suppose we have separate queues, right? The idea of having a separate queues is the burst time characterized. Suppose let us take, there is one process which is taking a long time. In that case, what we can do is it can be given to a lower queue. Or one more thing, suppose one process is taking, it is waiting because it is in a lower priority, then what we can do, that process can be moved to a higher priority. That's what we see here in the last sentence. So anything multi-level feedback queue scheduler defined by the following parameters. So how do we define a multi-level feedback? Number of queues, how many queues are there? It's left to the operating system. So in the last example, how many queues it was having? It was having a 5. So it is not fixed that you should have a 5. So it can be increased. That's the number of queues. Scheduling algorithm for each queue. So the same way for 5. Suppose in this exam, in this one, we have 5. So for system process, which scheduling algorithm should I fix? For interactive, which one should I fix? For interactive editing process, which algorithm I have to fix? That also scheduling algorithm for each queue we are fixing. Then method used to determine when to upgrade a process. When should I upgrade the method? Which one? So now I told, because lower priority, there was one process which was having lower priority, and that was waiting. Then when should I upgrade that? That problem, that method also should be considered. Then demote a process. When should I say that it was in a lower priority? When should I make it as a higher priority? Or it was taking a long time. Then when should how should I say that it should move? It should be moved to the lower one. So that's how we see. Then method used to determine which queue a process will enter when the process needs a service. And suppose the process enter the queue, which for which queue I should push this process. That also is a challenging task in a multi-queue feedback. Okay, so that was which we have seen about all about a CPU. How many CPU scheduling algorithms are there? What is multi-queue? All those. So next we move on to a concurrency. So before moving on, what is concurrency? Let us see what it is. The OS designed in concerned about more about management of process and threads with respect to a multi-programming, multi-processors, processing, and a distributed operating system. So now, though we have designed multi-queues, so so many things. So then there are, because we have done multi-queues, still there are some problems even in the multi-queues. So the something like we will discuss here. That's what the OS design is concerned more about management. I'm able to listen to everybody. Because first time I am using this. Can anybody respond? Are you able to listen to me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because Google I am using first time. All these days I was using Zoom. So whether you people are able to listen to me, able to hear me?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Try to go back to presentation. Okay. Okay. The concurrency is a fundamental issue for all these areas. So that's what is concurrency means. What concurrency means? Simultaneously. I'll see there may be some times where I want to complete my work faster. So in that case, what we'll do is we divide this work into two different, and we see to that it should be parallelly done. If parallelly is done, do we have any problems? That's what we see here in a concurrency. Concurrency meaning, the dictionary meaning of concurrency means parallel work. Parallelly, if I am able to do the work. Okay, if I am doing parallel work, then what are the problems will arise when we are doing a concurrency? We'll see some examples in our slides and see what are the problems. Concurrency include, it may be with respect to design issues, when I'm drawing some UML diagram or flow charts or data flow diagram. Even then also I may have a concurrency problem. Or maybe like communication among processes. So because I told two processes, this process has to communicate, P1 has to communicate with P2, P2 has to communicate with P3. If there may be problem there also, or sharing off. So sharing off and competing for resources. Maybe printer. Five people are there where at same time five people wants the printer, because we have only one printer. Five people are want the resources. That's what here sharing also will be problem, because parallel. Then synchronization of the activities of multi-process. We'll see even how can we manage this, and allocating of process time for the process. Due to this, concurrency means parallel. Because of parallel thing, what are the concurrency arises in a different context. We'll see what type of context based on the concept. Maybe I just gave you an example of printer. If one person, or let us assume that in our college in MCA department we have one printer and we are 12 staff, and all 12 staff will want printer at the same time. Can we give that? No, it is not possible. Only one staff can be allowed to take printout at one time. So based on that, we have so many problems. We see that multiple applications, structured application, and operating system structure. So multiple application means what? Multi-programming was invented to allow processing time to be dynamically shared among number of process of active application. Multiple application means what? So that's what you can see in our mobile laptops or anywhere. First, because we'll come back to our mobiles only. In your mobile, because simultaneously we want WhatsApp, we want to open. We want to open WhatsApp, we want to open Facebook, we want to open music. Behind there will be so many things where we can see the going on. That's what multiple applications. And dynamically we want to shift. If I click on WhatsApp, WhatsApp will be active. If I click on Facebook, Facebook should be active. That's what dynamic, shared among number of active application. And we see how we are doing. Then structured application as an extension of the principles of modular design and structured programming. Some applications can be effectively programmed as a set of concurrent processes. structured programs, and same your C programming is called as a structured program. Means structure means it should be like this only. I cannot change my structure. So now construction of a building. In construction of a building also, all so many years down the line, it was a some size where this much should be bedroom, this much should be your hall. So that's what structure will be same. We are not touching with the structure. C program should should start with main only, and it should open with the brackets. It should open with the flower brackets. It should open with end with the flower. This is what called as a structured application. We'll come back to that. Then operating system structure. The same structuring advantage applied to system programs, and we have seen that operating system are themselves often implemented as a set of process or a threads. We'll see them. Okay. Now then, the important keywords in studying of concurrency are listed below. So what are the important keywords which are required for concurrency? Atomic operation. Atomic means what? Single operation. Only one operation should be allowed at one particular time. That's what a sequence of one or more statements that appears to be indivisible. That is, no other process can see an intermediate state or interrupt the operation. That's what atomic means. What? A single operation should be going on. Then critical section, a section of code within a process that requires access to a shared resource, and that must not be executed while other process is in a corresponding section of code. Critical section means there may be some part where that should not be used, because sharing same way printer. So if I consider a printer, 12 people are there. To whom should we give first? The printer who has very high urgency. Only that staff should be given right now. So that's what critical section. What type of situation? Now one sheet of paper should be submitted to the principal. That is very important than other things. Then we call that type of situation, we call it here as a critical section. Deadlock. I use a printer. I will not leave for 1 hour. How about other 12, 11 staff? We cannot do. Others are also will be using printer system. I want system. I want printer. I want to take printout, and one staff is using desktop. He is not leaving desktop to take printout. I am not leaving printer to take the thing. So then this type of thing we call it as a deadlock. A situation in which two or more processes are unable to proceed because each is waiting for one of the others to do something. Live lock, a situation in which two or more processes continuously change their states in response to change of the other process without doing any useful work. So live lock, sometimes let's just say not useful work is done, but still that's what your printer thing only. One staff is taking unwanted printouts, and he may take 1 hour. And other person, emergency, it was very important. He has to submit some report to the principal. And the one staff who is taking printout like pictures, something like that, that is waste of time. That's what similar like a live log. Mutual exclusion, the requirement that when one process is in a critical section that acts as shared resource, no other process may be in a critical section that access any of the shared resource. Mutual exclusion, we see to that each one will get a separate thing. Then race condition, a situation in which multiple thread or process read and write shared data item, and finally result depends on the relative time of their execution. Starvation, a situation in which runnable process is overlooked indefinitely by a scheduler, although it is able to proceed into a never choosing. So starvation means, that's what in the last class we have seen. Starvation means one process with a low priority has to wait, and it will not get its turn only. That's what is called as a starvation. These are the key important words which are required for a concurrency. Okay, so now coming back to definition of concurrency. Concurrency means what? Concurrency is the property for program. It can be for a program, or it can be for algorithm, or it can be for problem decomposability into order independently or partial ordered components or a unit. So that's what is called is a definition for a concurrency. And in concurrency, we have two things, that is principles of concurrency. Again, we see in the next thing, a single process system or multi-processing system. In single processor system, the process are switched from one process to another process among themselves and appear to be executed simultaneously. So what we see in a single processor, that's what, as we know, we don't want the CPU to be kept idle. So in that case, we see to that in a single process, it is assumed that CPU is not kept idle. So the process one will be working out, process two will be working out. Like, so we'll see that in the next slide. In multi-processors processing system, the processes may be switched as well as overlapped. So in the next thing you can see here, this is a diagram which explains you single processing system or interleaving of a process. You can see how many processes are there in this. We have three processes, P1, P2, P3, and time required. So down also you can see blocked. Black color one is a blocked, and a blue color, light blue color is a running. So you can see the process one. This is a complete CPU has been given to the processors. All three processor wants a CPU. Now processor P1 enters. When processor P1 enters the CPU, it will be executing. For some time, it will be executing. And P1 wants value from a keyboard. Then what? This P1 will be in a waiting. P2 will be entering. When P2 is executing, completed its work, P1 will come back. So then P1 will be executing. So when P1 is executing, completed its job, P3 has come. So and P3 will be given a CPU time. When P3 is completed, P2 is again coming back. And again last P1. So you can see here, blue color, black. Green, light green, black, light black. So like this, you can see the green color one are all in a active state, and black color is blocked. At that much time, it will be blocked. It will not be given time. Process P1 will not be given if it is blocked, and after that completion, it will be given. This is a interleaving. Interleaving means process one is left, process two is taken. Process two is left, process three is taken. Like this, switching is taking place between all these three processes. This is called as a single processing system. Same, you can see here, there is no overlap. What do we mean by overlap? Overlap means one after the other is being, if P1 is still at the end, P2 is started. Here there is no such overlapping problem. We see that in the next. In P1, if it ends, then only P2 is entering. If P2 ends, then only P1 is entered. If P1 is ended, P3 is entered. If P3 is ended, then P2 is entered. If P2 is end, then P1 is entered. That's what here, there is no overlapping, but there is a switch from one process to another process. That's what this is a single process, means I have only one CPU. So for one CPU, it is shifting between a processor, because there are three processors, shifting from one process to process two, process two to process three. In multi-processing system, so interleaving and overlapping of process. So here what we see here, you can see here, P1 before it ends, P1 is started as well as P2 is started, overlapping. So, and here also you can see P1 still, P1 is blocked, but P2 is running. And when P1 is still, P3 is still not ended, P1 is started. So means here overlapping is happening in this multi-processing system. But in a single processing, there was no overlapping. Switching was there. Switching means from one process to another process to another process was there, but no overlapping. Whereas in multi-processing, there is a overlapping between processors is taking place. Because of this overlapping, will come to some problems. So what is that? So interleaving and overlapping causes certain problems are listed below. That's what I told. Because there is a overlapping and switching and overlapping will cause so many problems. We see what are the problems. There are three problems. Sharing of global resources may be dangerous, because sharing global resources, you will be knowing in any programming, we say global declaration and local declaration. We see what is local means within that function, if you come out of that function, that variable cannot be used. Global means it can be used any function. That's what sharing of global resources may be dangerous. Optimal little allocation of resource may be difficult for OS and difficult for locating programming errors. So these are the three problems occurs when we are using in switching and overlapping in the process. To understand these, we'll see some example. So now you can see in this simple code to understand these the problems. An example is considered in the following section. You can see in this function there is a one function called echo. Echo is a function and it is declared as a void and start. And chin is a chin and chin out. What is chin? It is a variable. What that variable is doing? It is taking a value from a keyboard. What type of value it is taking? Get char. Get char means character is being taken from the keyboard. And that whatever you press from a keyboard, that will be assigned to a chin. That chin again will be pushing that value to chout. Chout chin will be passing to ch out, and that ch out will what it is displaying to the monitor. Put char is what displaying in the monitor. So this function, I hope so it is clear to you people. So next, it is easily observed that chin and chin out are global variable. And you can see here, is there any chin, ch out declared here, whether int chin, int float? No. Means it is assumed that these chin and chin out are ch in, ch out are global variable. Global variable means same chin, ch out can be used by any function. The function echo reads one character from the keyboard and stores into a chin. It is then assigned to out and it is displayed. That's what I've explained is written here. The echo function is global and available to all the application, not only ch in, ch out, along with ch in, ch out. Excuse me, sorry. Echo is also a global function. Global means this echo can be used by any functions within that project. Hence, only one single copy of echo is loaded into the main memory. So, because it is a global, only one copy will be there in main memory. Only one copy should be taken by all the functions. Sharing of such variable will be causing certain problems in both single processor and multiprocessor, because globally it should be shared. Because it is shared, there will be some problems both in single processor and multiprocessor. We see first single, then we move on to multiprocessor. Okay, first coming back, what is a problem if we share? So that's what here. In single processor multi-programming system, assume that there is only one input output. Yes, definitely we use only one keyboard and one monitor. So if I have only one input output, assume that process P1 invokes echo. Means what? I have two processors, P1 and P2. Now P1 is started and P1 is started using a echo. When it started using echo, first line. So in this first line, echo is being used by P1. So let us assume that there are two processors, P1 and P2. P1 started executing. So when P1 started executing, it started using first line. First line is what? Get char. P1 taken a value for a get char from a keyboard, some value X, and stored in chin. Okay. When it was doing this, P2 has uh, P2 also started. P2 also started. That's what here interrupted immediately after reading the character say X from the keyboard. Now, because these are all global, even other function can also be used. So now the global variable ch in contains X. At this moment of time, process P2 invokes the function echo and executes. So P1 still not completed. Still it is processing and it is assigned a value X to ch in. When it does just assigned X to ch in, processor P2 has started. Processor P2 started and it is doing its work. What process 2 is doing? Processor 2 is taking a value Y from a keyboard and executes its value. So what is our function? Take a character from a keyboard, assign that character to ch in, and ch in turn assigns a value for c out, and that will be displayed on the monitor. That's what is our this echo function is doing. So echo function is used by two processors, that is P1 and P2. First P1 started, first line it is taken, first line it is executed, and it is interrupted. When it is interrupted, P2 started. P2 started using the same echo function. P1, what it was doing, it has a value X in CH in. Now P2 started using this echo function. Now it used X and stored in CH in, and CH in is passed to CH out, and it is displayed to a put character. That's what here. Assume the processor P2 completes its execution and displays Y. Now the process P1 is resumed back. And now because P1 was interrupted, after P2 completed its work, it will come back. Now what value will be C in will be having? Because P2 has modified the value of CH in. So earlier P1 was having X, but now P2 was used it and it is started and change the value of CH in. Now CH in will be having a Y. That's what here. Let the character read now be Y. Assume the process P2 completes its execution and displays Y. Now the process P1 is resumed and displays the character as Y because recently content of CH in is Y. And there will be a problem here. To solve this problem, only one process should be allowed to invoke function for a given moment of time, because now there is a conflict. What conflicts we have? P1 was using echo, P2 was using echo. P1 wants X, P2 wants Y, and because P2 has stopped in between and P2 completes, so now the value in C in, because these variables, this function is a global means anyone can access, then it will be a problem. That's what you have to overcome this problem. What is the solution we have? Solution in a concurrency is, that is, when P1 is invoked the function and got interrupted, P2 may try to invoke the same function because it is invoking the same function, but P2 must be suspended. What is the problem here? Because P1 was using the echo function, P2 should be suspended till P1 is completed. Till P1 completes, P2 should not be allowed. That is the only problem for a concurrency. Only after P1 comes out of the echo, function P2 must be resumed. Thus it is necessary to control the code of protecting shared global variable. That's what here the first problem is addressed. What was the first problem? When we are interleaving or overlapping, sharing of global variables may be dangerous. That's what this will become to a dangerous. So to avoid this, what we have to do? We have to allocate only one thing and make to wait unless that gives the resources to you. Okay. So next, the same problem with a multiprocessor. A simple problem occur. Consider the two processes P1 and P2 executing on two different processes. The execution of the instruction of echo function for both P1 and P2 are shown here. So you can see in this diagram, note that the instruction on the same line executed in the parallel. So parallelly, the work is multiprocessor means two processors are there, two processors are executing separately. Now, process P1 started and it started using CH in, and the value X is stored in a CH in. When X is stored, here this side in process 2, again it started reading. C in, get char, C out, it is displayed, then put out. So that you can see there is a difference here. One can observe that the global variable CH in initially read through P1 is overwritten by P2. Here also, to avoid the problem, control the access of a shared resources. Even in multiprocessor also this problem is there, because it is global, process 1 can be used, process 2 can be used, but that should be avoided only when, if one process is using one global variable, other should not be used until unless this work is done. That's what here there are two processors P1 and P2. P1 is using echo function, it should complete its work, then only P2 processor P2 should be allowed. That's what here the meaning of sharing global variables. Next, we move on to the next condition. So the next one, optimal allocation of resources may be difficult for OS and difficult for locating programming errors. So that's what here. Next one is a race condition. What is this race condition? A race condition occurs when this condition will occur is when multiple threads or a process, either it can be read or write. You can do many times reading data items so that the final result depends on order of execution of the instruction. Consider two examples to understand. So to understand this race condition, let us see what is this. Assuming that there are two processes, P1 and P2, are sharing a global variable A. A is what? Global variable. P1 and P2 are what? Processors. And A1 is a global because it is a global. P1 also can be used. P2 can be also used. And P1 function, what it is having? Updation of A. P2 is what having updation of A. P1 updates A value to 1. P2 updates A value to 2. Both P1 and P2 will be executed in their own set of instructions. Now, the value of A depends on the order of execution of the above statement. So now again, so what the problem is? So now P1 started, and P1 is A. What is P1 is taking? A value is 1 in P1. In P2, what is having? A value is 2. So which one will execute first? Based on that, A value will be retained. That's what here it means a race condition. Will decide the value of A. Take one more example. Let there are two processes, P3 and P4, sharing two global variables B and C. Initially, B is having 1, C is having 2. The process P3 has a statement B equals to B plus C. So B is what? 1. C is what? 2. Now adding first line, let us first do it one by one. Value is what? B plus C. What is B? 1 plus C is what? 2. 1 plus 2 is what? 3. So if this first line. Okay. That statement is where in which process it is in P3. Okay, now come back. In P4, what is there? C equals to B plus C. What is B value? 1. And what is the C value? 2. So again here also. Okay, one can easily make out that the final value of B and C depends on the order of execution of these statements. If P3 executes first, then suppose let us assume that P3 will be executed first. What is the value for B and C? That's what here it says. So B equals to 3, C equals to 5 if P3 is executed first. In case if P4 executes first, then value of B will be 4, C will be 3. So that's what here the changes will be there based on which one you are executing first. The order because of BCR global. Then we move on to a operating system concern. With respect to a concurrency, the following design issues OS have to be considered. That's what I told. Concurrency means parallelly, because we have to do some work parallelly. When I start doing parallelly, same thing, design. Suppose let us take an example, design a flow chart. I asked you people to design a flow chart for some program, and what you people have done, because I've asked you to submit in 10 minutes, what you have distributed your work and you are submitting. Can that be possible for flowcharts to be done? It is not possible, because flowchart means there should be continuity in how the data is flowing. That's what here the OS must keep track of process. The operating system, what it has to do, keep track of how many processors are there, and allocating and deallocating resources to be active. So if I've assigned one printer to one staff, till the printer is released by that staff, other staff cannot allow to take the printer. That's what allocating and deallocating of resources. Protect the data and resource against interference by other processes. That's what here protecting data. That's why we have shifted from Zoom to Google Meet. Why did we not take in Zoom classes? Because they are saying that how far it is true, we don't know. But most of the rumors are Zoom is not secure. So we have shifted for a Meet. That's what protection of data is also very important. That's what we have to see here. Ensure that the process and outputs are independent of the processing speed to understand the speed independency, the various ways of process interaction has to be considered. That's what here the operating system concerns are. These four points are the concerns for the operating system when it is in a designing stage. We'll come back process interaction. Process interaction means that's what one process, another process, another process. If I have four processes, how to interact? The way in which the processes are interacted is depending on how or whether they are aware of each other's existence. There are three ways as listed in the next one. Now let us discuss pros and cons of various types of relationship among the process. So though there are three ways of listing them, so we'll see in the next the pros and cons of the relationship among the processors. So process interaction. So there are four relationship. One is degree of awareness. Whether suppose let us take you are two friends. You don't know until unless I can see how many people are there in this class. I'll not be aware of who is there next to me. That's a degree of awareness. The relationship. What is the type of relationship between you? Whether you both are friends or whether you both are enemies. Based something like that, we have a relationship. The influence that one process has on the other. So suppose if you both of you are friends, if one friend is not coming, other friend will also not come to the class. If both are enemies, if one is not coming, other one will definitely come. Something like that. That is the influence of one on the other. Then potential control problems. So you may say that you because you both are friends, you say you'll be saying to your friend also, yeah, please come. Both of us will listen. That's what the control. Friends, the relationship. Based on the relationship, you can control the problems. So process unaware of each other. Suppose if you are not aware, even the other person is also there. Then competition. Then result of one process independent of the action of the other. Mutual exclusion, deadlock, starvation, time of process may be affected. That's what if both are unaware. If process indirectly aware of each other, cooperation by sharing, the result of one process may depend on the information obtained from other. Mutual exclusion, deadlock, starvation, and date of coherence. Time of process may be affected. A process directly aware of each other, cooperation by communicating. Result of one process may depend on information obtained from other. Time of process may be affected. Deadlock or starvation. These are some of the complications with respect to a process interaction. Now we move on to the competing among process for resources. Competing means I want this process, I want this process. That's what when you were in a small kids, you are running. If both of kids are there, then you will be saying who will drink first, whether your brother or sister. That's what competition here. Resources. The same way, even in operating system also we have a problem with the resources. Same example like printer. Printer is only one, but there are so many people who wants that printer. That's what here competition among the process for resources. Concurrent process conflicts with each other when they are competing for same resource. In such situation, the three control problems will arise. The first one is need of mutual exclusion. Suppose two processes require an access to a single non-shareable resource like printer. That's what here like printer. Mutual exclusion should be there. I'll say that 1 hour I'll take, another hour let other stuff take. Same, take your timetable example. So in timetable example, all staff will be at least minimum have what sessions in 1 week. One maybe 5 depends upon if it is a lab. So that's how your mutual exclusion is taking place. So during the course of execution, each process will be sending commands to the input device, receiving status information, sending data and or receiving data. That's what when we are communicating or executing, this will be happening. We will refer to such resource as a critical resource and the portion of the program that uses its critical section of the program. It is important that only one program at a time be allowed in its critical section. We cannot simply rely on the OS to understand and enforce this interaction. So what it says is critical resources is one to one. There should be always one. If one person is using, that person will be given a time limit. Same way your timetable. 1 hour is given to me. I have to complete my, whether I complete, don't complete, I have to leave after 1 hour. So that's what here resource. The resources should be given only at one time, at one particular thing. For example, in case of printer, we want only one process to have a control of printer till it finishes printing the entire document. That's what same way how I have told. Otherwise, lines from competing process will be interlinked. So the enforcement of mutual exclusion will lead to two other problems: deadlock and starvation. Because we say mutual exclusion, and because in mutual exclusion there are two more problems coming here: deadlock and starvation. What is deadlock? Suppose there are two processes, P1, P2. P1 is using resource R1, P2 is using resource R2. P1 wants R2, P2 wants R1. But P1 is holding R1, P2 is holding R2. And it keeps waiting because it wants R2. Each of them wants R2 and they're not releasing their resources. This type of thing is called as a deadlock. Assume process P1 is holding the resource R1 and P2 is holding the resource R2. Now P1 is waiting for R2 for its completion, whereas P2 is waiting for R1 for its completion. None of P1 and P2 release the respective resource and hence it is a deadlock. Consider other situation. Consider other situation. The process P1, P2 and P3 require periodic access to a resource R. Periodic access means suppose there are three processes P1, P2, P3, and in case suppose if OS allocates R to only P1 and P2, and P3 what it has to do, it has to wait, and I'll not get because my priority is very less. P3 priority is very less compared to P1 and P2. P1 and P2 is having high priority than P3. Then what? P3 will be keep waiting. And how long it keeps waiting? That's what is called as a starvation. The OS should provide some solution to such problems by saying lock the resource before it uses. To solve such type of problems like deadlock and starvation, what the operating system has to come up, it has to come up saying that lock. That's what here now also you can see in even in Zoom also or in any online thing. We have an option of not if I start my class at 11:50, I may give 5 minutes time and I'll lock my thing. See to that no other students or not unauthorized person should not enter into that. That's what you're locking. Why should we lock? So that unauthorized person should not enter into our class. So that's what is called the locking. Same way here, even in operating system also, try to lock until unless my work is done. That's what is locking. Cooperation among process by sharing. Here the process are aware of existence of other process. Hence the process may cooperate while updating the shared data. But as data are held on resources, the problem of mutual exclusion, deadlock and starvation are still present. On top of this, a new problem, data coherence, is introduced. Data coherence means the requirement of consistency in shared data. So what is this? Along with not only mutual exclusion, not only with deadlock, not only with starvation, we have one more problem called as a data coherence. Data coherence means if two people, I have shared, let us take one example. I have shared a question paper to you people. And I told you can change your questions. So when I told small changes in your question, your two classmates at simultaneously will change. So which one should be saved, whether your next friends or yours? Then there will be a data problem. Which one should be saved? That's what is called as a data coherence. For example, if two global variables A and B are equal at the beginning. So suppose, let us take an example. A and B are two global variables. I think you'll be knowing what is global and local variable. Global means anyone can be used those two. So initially A and B are equal at the beginning. They should remain equal even after the execution of the multiple process. What it means is once if they are equal at the beginning, even after at the end also it should be equal. That's what it means here. If the relationship among them is less than A is less than B, it should remain as it is. To maintain such data integrity, the entire sequence of instruction in the process must be as a critical reason. Suppose if we take a relationship, so what relationship? A is less than B. If it's starting is A is less than B means even after completion of the process also it should be A is less than B. That's what it should be there. One more, cooperating among the process by communication. Here the process communicate with each other by sending a message. So what it means is you will say that how the WhatsApp sharing. So you will say that I'll share this, I'll share this. So which one will come first? Which one has to be given first? That will. Hence, there won't be any requirement for mutual exclusion, but the problem of deadlock and starvation still persists. By doing this, by sending a message, I can send a message, you can send me a message. That problem of communication will be over. But still, starvation and deadlock will still persist. Requirement for mutual exclusion. The facility of mutual exclusion should meet the following requirement. Only one process at a time is allowed in a critical section for a resource. What is mutual exclusion says, what are the requirements it has to follow is only one process at one time at a critical section. A process that halts in its non-critical section must do so without interfering with the other process. Suppose if it is not critical and it should not interfere with other person, then it should complete its work. That's what in a non-critical. No deadlock or no starvation. There should not be any deadlock situation. There should not be any starvation. Then a process must not delay access to a critical section when there is no other process using it. No assumption made about relative process speed or number of processes. A process remains inside its critical section for a finite time only. That's what here. The process, I cannot say, same example with printer. If I am there, if I take for 2 hours printing, how about other staff? That's what. They'll say that you take half an hour, other staff will also take half an hour. Means time restrictions are given, finite time. This requirement of mutual exclusion can be satisfied by number of ways. Leave the responsibility of concurrent execution to the process themselves. So by doing this, what we can do, we may leave the concurrent process to the processor. Usage of special purpose machine instruction, providing the support within the operating system or programming language. So these are the requirement for a mutual exclusion can be satisfied. And mutual exclusion with the hardware support. There are many software algorithm for enforcing mutual exclusion, but they have a high processing overhead and a risk of logical error. Hence, we will here consider a few hardware approaches. So, softwares are also there. That's what they say that we have so many software algorithms to stop a mutual exclusion, but still we see some approaches where the hardware approach has been applied for a mutual interrupt disabling. That's what here the locking. So in online classes, what we have option, we lock it after 5 minutes. Once all 53 students of second semester entered my class, I will lock so that no other person should come. So that's what here interrupt disabling. In a single process system, concurrent process cannot be overlapped, but can be interleaved. Moreover, a process will continue to execute until it is interrupted. Hence, to guarantee mutual exclusion, a process has to be prevented from being interrupted. This capability can be provided in the form of primitively defined by a operating system kernel for disabling and enabling the interrupt. So that's what here. Same example, whether should I allow the external person to enter into my class or should I stop? That's what. Should I lock or should I not lock? Same way here, interrupt disabling. Should I allow the interrupts in between coming? Should I allow you people to stop, speak out or should I not allow you? That's what interrupt disabling or enabling or disabling. So a process should not be interrupted till it completes its critical section. But by doing so, the efficiency of OS will slow down as OS cannot switch between the process. Moreover, this approach does not guarantee mutual exclusion in case of multi-processing system. So I'll stop here and we'll continue in the next section.